On October 23, 1981, a 17-year-old boy left his house for a Halloween party in Ohio. 5 days later, his body was found in a ravine. But the coroner said he'd only been dead 36 hours, which means he was alive somewhere for 3 days, and never once called his mother. Here's what makes this case unforgivable. Before the body was even found, a stranger walked into a record store, pointed at the missing poster on the wall, and said, "They'll find him dead in 2 days. No one will ever know why." He was right about the timing. He was exactly right, and no one has ever explained how he knew. This is what happened to Kurt Sova, and the answer may never come. Newberg Heights, October 1981, a working-class suburb south of Cleveland. Kurt Eugene Sova was 17 years old, the youngest of 4 brothers in a tight-knit Polish family. Athletic, funny, the kind of kid who could crack a joke at exactly the wrong time just to make everyone laugh. His parents, Ken and Dorothy, had simple rules: home by 10:30 on school nights, sometimes 11. If plans changed, Kurt called. Always, no exceptions. In 17 years, he'd never broken that rule. Not once. That trust was about to destroy his family. Friday afternoon, October 23rd, Kurt skipped school. Normal teenage rebellion, right? Except what he did next wasn't normal. Outside a liquor store, Kurt convinced a stranger to buy him a bottle. Not beer, not wine coolers, Everclear. 190 proof grain alcohol. So strong it's banned in multiple states. He spent that afternoon at his girlfriend's house drinking this. By evening, he was dangerously past drunk when his friend Sam Carroll showed up with plans. A Halloween party at a duplex over on Harvard Avenue, thrown by a woman named Susan. The crowd that night was older, people Kurt didn't know. The kind of party where a drunk 17-year-old should never be. But he was 17, and 17-year-olds don't always think clearly. What happened inside that duplex depends on who you ask. Accounts differ, but everyone agrees on one thing: Kurt kept drinking. Some say he got rowdy, others say he just got sick, probably both. Either way, by late evening, his friend Sam decided Kurt needed air. It was cold, late October. The two stepped outside, stood in the dark for maybe 20 or 30 minutes while Kurt tried to steady himself. Then Sam made a choice, a simple choice. He went back inside to grab their jackets. When Sam came back out, Kurt was gone. No sign of him, no note, no goodbye. Just vanished into the October darkness. That was the last moment anyone would admit to seeing Kurt Sova alive. Saturday morning came. Dorothy, his mother, didn't panic easily, but something in her gut told her this was different. A skipped class? She'd overlook it. A late night? She'd be annoyed. But a full night without checking in? Kurt had never done that. By afternoon, Ken was behind the wheel, retracing every route. The park, the school, friends' houses, anywhere a drunk teenager might stumble. Dorothy stayed home, by the phone, calling everyone she could think of. "Have you seen Kurt? Have you seen Kurt? Have you seen Kurt?" No one had. By Sunday, desperation had set in. Ken filed a missing person report with Cleveland police. Dorothy printed flyers, storefronts, phone poles, gas stations, anywhere someone might recognize his face. And then, she made a choice that would matter. She drove straight to that duplex on Harvard Avenue and knocked on the door. A woman answered, said there was no party, said she'd never seen Kurt before. But Dorothy wasn't a mother who scared easy. She kept pressing, kept asking questions around town. And then, a pizza delivery driver told her something different. He'd made a delivery to that exact address Friday night during a party. Confronted, the woman finally admitted it. Yes, there had been a party. And yes, she recognized Kurt. Ken later returned to that duplex himself. He found Kurt's jacket inside the house. But before the family could dig deeper, Police Chief James F. Lucas arrived at their door with a warning. Stop investigating or be charged with harassment. Think about that for a moment. A mother's son is missing. A father has found physical evidence, and the police are ordering them to stop looking. That's when things got truly strange. Monday, October 26th. 3 days after Kurt vanished. A man walked into Slavic Village Records, a small shop with Kurt's missing poster taped in the front window. He looked unwell, maybe homeless, maybe just disturbed. He pointed at the poster, and he said these exact words.
"They'll find the boy dead in 2 days."
The store manager, Judy Oros, remembered every word, every single word. The man seemed to know something, or sense something uncanny. The next morning, Judy arrived to open the shop. On the doorstep, a bouquet of flowers, a handwritten note, and this is what it said. "Roses are red, the sky is blue. They found him dead, and they'll find you too." Police tracked the man down. He was a transient from Detroit, clearly unstable. But with no proven connection to Kurt, there was nothing to charge him with. So they let him go. He left town immediately. No one ever saw him again. And exactly 2 days after that prophecy, they found Kurt's body. The question no one can answer. How did he know? Was it insight? Intuition? Or did he have direct knowledge of a crime he was about to witness? Why would a stranger from Detroit show up in Ohio, predict a boy's death with eerie accuracy, and then vanish? It's been 44 years. No one has ever explained it. Wednesday, October 28th, afternoon. 3 boys were cutting through a ravine behind a furniture warehouse, the kind of place kids go to play, skip rocks, kill time. But this time, what they found wasn't a game. Lying face up in a shallow puddle was Kurt Sova, his arms stretched wide. Investigators would later call it a crucifixion-like pose. He was wearing that bright yellow t-shirt his father remembered, the color glowing against the gray ravine. One shoe was missing, found 12 feet away, wedged between rocks. The spot where Kurt was found? 500 yards from the party house, 1 mile from his family home. Ken Sova had searched that exact stretch of ravine the day before. The body wasn't there, or at least, that's what Ken insisted. And a father searching for his missing son would know if he'd found a body. The autopsy revealed something that still troubles investigators 44 years later. Dr. Lester Adelson, the chief deputy coroner, estimated Kurt had been dead 24 to 36 hours, not 5 days, not 3 days, not even 2 days, 24 to 36 hours, which meant Kurt was alive for most of the time he was missing, somewhere, with someone, doing something, and in all that time, scared, confused, intoxicated, or otherwise, he never managed to call his mother. The coroner's finding raised an impossible question. Where was Kurt for those 3 missing days? But it got worse. Dr. Adelson couldn't find a cause of death. Kurt hadn't been stabbed, shot, beaten. There was no major trauma. His blood alcohol level showed he'd been drinking, but nowhere near fatal for a healthy teenager. A healthy 17-year-old simply stopped living, and nobody could explain why. The coroner first ruled it probable accident, then changed it to undetermined. In 44 years, no one has ever determined what killed Kurt Sova. But here's what makes this case darker still. There was something else, something the official reports tried to bury. 1445. The sighting Monday, October 26th, 3 days after Kurt disappeared from that party. Kurt's friend David Trusnick was driving through Newberg Heights when he spotted someone on a sidewalk, a kid, who looked just like Kurt, walking beside another teenager. David pulled over, ready to offer a ride, and that's when something happened that David didn't understand at the time, but would haunt him for decades. He called out to the boy. The boy looked up, and he shouted a single name, Franco. Both teenagers immediately ran toward a white van parked nearby, jumped inside, and the van drove off. At the time, David didn't even know Kurt was missing. If he had, maybe he would have followed the van. Maybe he would have gotten a license plate. Maybe this entire story would have ended 44 years ago. But it didn't. Now, here's where it gets darker. Nobody has ever definitively identified who Franco was. Some investigators believe it was a 20-year-old named Craig Franco from Cleveland. A man who, 6 weeks after Kurt's disappearance, was shot and killed in a robbery. A man who died before anyone could properly question him about that October afternoon. Was Franco involved in Kurt's death? Did he take Kurt that day? Did he know what happened to him? No one will ever know, because the only person who could answer those questions was shot dead 6 weeks later, and the case was never seriously reopened to investigate the connection. David Trusnick's sighting remains one of the most critical pieces of evidence in the case. It proves Kurt was alive on Monday. It suggests he was with someone he knew or trusted, and it raises a chilling possibility. What if Kurt willingly went with Franco? What if the boy asking for help knew his killer? This is where the case becomes unforgivable. Because the investigation into Kurt's death wasn't just sloppy, it was corrupted at the highest level. The case was placed in the hands of Lieutenant Robert Karras of Newberg Heights Police. Years later, Karras would be convicted on 76 counts of drug trafficking, multiple civil rights violations, forging painkiller prescriptions. At one point, he chained suspects to hot radiators. This was the man leading the investigation into a teenager's death. But the most damning failure came from a woman named Angeline Redex. She lived near the ravine where Kurt's body was found. Days before the discovery, she told friends she'd seen 2 young men dragging what looked like an unconscious teenager toward that exact spot. One of his feet was bare. At the time, she thought it was just kids drunk and fooling around. But after Kurt's body was found, she realized what she'd seen. She wanted to go to police, but her husband discouraged her, said they should stay out of it. Almost a year later, by sheer chance, she ran into Ken Sova. She told him everything. Ken immediately reported it to Newberg Heights Police. They never interviewed her. They never followed up. They never even returned his calls. A potential eyewitness to the moment Kurt's body was placed in that ravine. And the police deliberately ignored her. The Cleveland Police Department offered to help, offered more resources, more experience. Newberg Heights turned them down flat. No crime scene photos were taken. No evidence was properly collected. Key witnesses were never interviewed. It was as if the police didn't want to solve the case, or couldn't afford to. Kurt Sova left his house on October 23, 1981. 5 days later, his body was found in a ravine 500 yards away. But he'd only been dead for 36 hours, which means for 3 days, 3 full days, Kurt was alive somewhere, with someone. Under circumstances no one has ever explained. A stranger predicted his death with eerie accuracy and then vanished. A friend saw him Monday with someone named Franco. Franco was shot dead 6 weeks later. A woman watched 2 men dragging an unconscious boy to the ravine. The police ignored her, and the investigation was led by a drug trafficker who would later chain suspects to radiators. The official cause of death remains undetermined after 44 years. In 2019, The case was reopened. Investigators from Tiffin University reviewed everything. CrimeCon brought in hundreds of amateur detectives. Even actress Selena Gomez participated in the investigation. They found nothing, because the trail had gone cold decades earlier. Witnesses died, memories faded, physical evidence disappeared, and the only person who could have solved this, Kurt himself, left no message, no final word. Nothing but a body in a ravine and 3 missing days. What killed Kurt Sova? Accidental death? Foul play? Someone he trusted? Was he at that party when he died, hidden in the basement by panicked teenagers? Or was he with Franco and the van ride ended in murder? Did the police know more than they revealed? Were corrupt officers involved? Or were they simply too incompetent to care? The truth is, we may never know. And the people who do know, they're either dead or they've kept silent for 44 years. The mystery of Kurt Sova isn't just unsolved, it's unforgivable.